How are we going 44 minutes in before getting a Leaky Black? I apologize.
Leaky Black back in school. Armando Bacot back in school. I think at this point we're really just waiting on Caleb Love.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've talked about before, he's an interesting prospect, but not a guaranteed first rounder. In fact, not even a likely first rounder. And as we've seen, and I think as we've talked about all this stuff that people think is bad with college basketball, here's something that's good. Name, image, and likeness rights is bringing people back to school.
Sure.
Jaime Jaquez could have been picked in the second round probably and announced that he's coming back to school. I'm assuming he's doing that with an understanding that he's going to make a significant amount of money to do it. That's awesome, keeping players like him in school.
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to be able to keep, Chet Holmgren in school. You're never going to be able to.
He hasn't declared yet. So. What are we doing, by the way?
I'm fairly sure.
I checked. Like, Paulo Banchero has not declared yet.
What are they? I don't even understand this.
What's going on? There's like 5 really good players that are not declared.
I would have declared in December.
Yeah,
I don't understand why people don't just declare in December. Like, of course, of course,
these are top 3 picks.
Yeah, like Paolo should have scored 32 points against NC State, and then announced that he's entering the 2022 NBA draft. Like, what are we doing? I don't care. Like,
AJ Griffin hasn't declared either, and neither has Abaji.
Yeah, I'm at the point like Jalen Duren declared yesterday. I'm like, okay. Like, I don't think I spent a minute on my radio show talking about it. Who cares? Of course he declared. He's going to the draft. He's always been going to the draft. So, but it's the other guys that, could maybe pursue overseas opportunities or G League opportunities that are, coming back to school. And North Carolina's got 2 of them already, Leaky Black and Armando Bacot. And if you get Caleb Love, there's a scenario, and we talked about this the night of the national championship game, where they bring back everybody except Brady Manek. And I think that's a guaranteed preseason top 5 team and possibly preseason number 1.
Brady Manek, by the way, a transfer portal success story along with Remy Martin. Oh, by the way. Like, Brady Manek, he got everything he could out of his Oklahoma experience. He needed a change of scenery, and look what happened. That's an awesome, awesome transfer portal story. Bacot returning. Yep. I don't know what the number will eventually be, but this makes me so happy for him because Bacot was. I remember seeing him at Peach Jam and how good he was. He every year we get to go to see these guys play on the circuit, and inevitably they're just our, for me at least, there wind up being 6 to 8 guys who just, for one reason or another, they just pop, whether they're at the top of the class or not even. Like, occasionally it's a 4-star guy that plays up or whatever. And I remember seeing Bacot as a high school prospect, and I was like, man, he is going to be a really good college player. And it's awesome to see that he's grown into this. And I don't know what his number is going to be next year in terms of NIL, but man, I think he is returning to a title game appearing team as a preseason first team All-American at one of the 2 or 3 biggest programs in the sport. I don't know what the number is, but if you told me that Armando Bacot stood to make north of $500,000 next year as a college player, I totally believe it, and I think that's freaking awesome. So, and if that is among the key factors why he decided to come back, more power to you, man. You only get to go to college once, get to college and play once, I should say. And so if you want to capitalize on, and then be a part of a team that's going to be preseason favorite to win the ACC, a preseason pick to make a Final Four national title contender, that's absolutely wonderful. And Leaky Black to return, I wasn't really surprised by either one, but Leaky Black was more of a sure thing to return than Bacot. Yeah, that's big time. Couple things here. We had listeners know of this podcast know that we, this is basically how we do this. GP and I occasionally mixing a little Booner, little David Cobb action, no doubt about it. We are for the most part, at least from the podcast form, we're anti-interview. We like to just give you us, and because basically, look at this, we're going on 50 minutes, man. But I think we need to have like a full-on Leaky Black podcast at some point in the off season. Right? We have to do that.
I would invite Leaky Black on.
We got to make that happen. If we can even do it in person, that'd be wonderful. I don't know if that can happen. I mean,
I'll bring Leaky to my house.
Well, I don't know.
What if I flew Leaky Black to my house and he just stayed with me for the week?
Would that actually be a violation? That might be a violation. I don't know. I don't know.
I feel like I can fly Leaky Black wherever I want.
Can you listen? I'm sure there are compliance people that listen to this podcast. Can Gary Parrish pay to fly Leaky Black to his house for the sole purpose of doing the Eye on College Basketball podcast? Is that a violation?
No, that would not be the sole purpose. That would be one of the things we do.
Okay. What's another purpose?
We just lay out
extortion lessons.
We just lay out in the backyard. Me and Leaky Black laying out in the backyard. What if you looked up and it's just me and Leaky Black laying out?
Then I wouldn't be in the picture. That's the other thing. We got to make this picture happen.
I'll fly you too. I'll fly you down.
I've never been to Mississippi or Memphis. We got to try and make that happen. So anyway, we will try and do this. We will try and get Leaky and really, because again, I assume many people listening heard the episode where I talked about the photo that I had with Leaky Black, but he was awesome and a lot of people made him aware of it. So because he is returning, we'll make that happen. Breaking Tea, by the way, made a Leaky Black shirt. I might have to rock that on the pod at some point soon here because that's too awesome. As for North Carolina, yeah, would they have a case with Love back for preseason number 1? UNC would have a case. Although, have you thought about it from this angle yet, GP? Would you be more or less likely to do that after Carolina would essentially be repeating a scenario from the year before? What am I getting at?
The UCLA.
Correct. Absolute, not the same thing, but a UCLA team that barely made it into the field, makes the Final Four, preseason top 5 hype. They were good, but they were a 4 seed, right? And they made the Sweet 16. They were good. Carolina was a bubble team until they won at Duke at the end of the regular season, get to the 8 line, make the title game. They could be good, but maybe we don't want to put too much on a team that might be propelling off of just its marked performance. That's all.
Well, first I would argue they're not just – first I would argue UCLA was top 10 at KenPom for almost the entire year this season.
I'm not saying that it was wrong, but it wasn't a top 5 team. That's all.
They were good. Like if you're top 10, if you're consistently in the top 10, I think you're a good college basketball team. So the idea that UCLA was somehow some
I'm saying UCLA was a trendy top 3 team going into last season. They were never one of the 3 best teams in the country. That's all. That's
fine. I'll take that. Although they started 5-0 with a win over Villanova.
They did. And then they lost by 20 to Gonzaga.
And that's tough. That was a tough
one. They were good, but I'm saying UCLA was good. I mean, maybe they won't shift. I'm not trying to shift you off anything. I'm just saying here
would be the difference. I did acknowledge that in the 2020-21 season, UCLA, in the span of the NCAA tournament, like when the NCAA tournament started, UCLA was 45th at KenPom. All right. And then they made that run and they finished.
Let me guess. I don't know. I'm going to say you said 45. They get to the Final Four. I'll say UCLA finished 27.
They finished 15th.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah.
Woo.
But so my argument was, hey, listen, I don't care how they started, how they finished. That's a top 15 KenPom team that returned basically everybody. And that was my justification for having a preseason top 5. But they did start the NCAA tournament 45th. North Carolina started the NCAA tournament 30th. All right. They were a borderline top 25 team when the NCAA tournament started. And though some people will say, yeah, they just got hot in the tournament. The truth is, if you go back to the day after they lost to Pitt, we've talked about this before, which was they lose to Pitt on February 16th. So you go back and you run the numbers. Did you know you can sort stuff at barttorvik.com?
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I just sit around at night. I watch
listen to the pod, giving us updates.
I watch camel fights on YouTube, and I just sort things on Torvik. I just sort. But if you go back to February 17th and make that the start date, North Carolina was the 3rd best team in the country for the rest of the season. Kansas was 1, Texas Tech was 2, and North Carolina was 3. So that's a 6-week sample size where Carolina was operating like a top 3 team in America. That's not insignificant. And so if you bring back everybody that matters from that team except Brady Manick, absolutely, I think you can be a candidate to be preseason number one. It's not obvious. And I think I've written this before. I don't think there will be an obvious preseason number one. I don't think there'll be a team that we all agree on. It looks like Carolina is going to be a candidate for that. UCLA is going to be a candidate for that. It appears. Kentucky could be a candidate for that.
Arkansas is a candidate for
Arkansas is definitely a candidate for that.
I like this.
Yeah, I think, the idea that we're all good. Like, remember that one year where it was like everybody agreed, like Michigan State was preseason number one?
Yeah.
And it was Cassius Winston, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Like, I don't think it's going to be one of those this season. There's going to be maybe 4 or 5 different totally legitimate candidates to be preseason number one. And some of it, just to tie this all back together, will be determined by the transfer portal in the coming weeks and months.